Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session created for a lady that had been almost paralyzed by fear, but not just any type of fear. It was a fear of rats that were in her neighborhood, and she'd seen them, and she'd seen a dead rat nearby, and she'd heard stories of rats and things like that. And because of her early experiences regarding mice, there was a real feeling of dread and anxiety to the extent that she believed that rats caused anxiety, which then caused the evaluations that she couldn't go to certain areas, which then led to coping strategies of avoidance, which then proved that she couldn't cope in certain situations. And you get this anxiety belief cycle that feeds on itself. I call it an anxiety loop, where the evaluation causes the emotion causes the reference, and then reference backs up the belief that keeps people trapped. What was clear, though, is that this particular client, in most areas of their life, was not timid, was not anxious, was very outspoken, was very confident, spoke up for what was right. And when I asked her to think of what came to mind of being fearless and being very confident, it was the archetype of a lion. And quite often, animals are linked to emotions. So quite often a lion is quite a feared, king of the jungle, very confident, in the same way that an eagle would represent, an element of kind of pride or an element of adventure to some extent. So the lion was an archetype, a resource state for her. What you're going to hear in this hypnosis session is using the resource state of when she was fearless in her own life, and then amplifying that with the archetype of a lioness, being very confident, very protective, fearless, being resourceful, and not being intimidated by anything. And what this was designed to do is to collapse anchors, because there is a principle in psychology called the law of dominant effect, which says that you can't have two conflicting emotions simultaneously. So if you have a highly, highly resourceful state of confidence and fearlessness, and you're in the situation where you're seeing the thing that in the past caused anxiety, but you're in that resource state, then what that does is it collapses the original anchor, the original stimulus of anxiety. And that's important because once you have that, then it becomes the belief cycle working for you rather than against you. So this will be a useful session, whether or not you're afraid of rats or mice or any animal. It's really about accessing a state of fearlessness, a state of invincibility almost, a state of freedom that you can do whatever you want, wherever you want. Now, of course, there is a caveat here, and that is that to be completely fearless is to be reckless, because the purpose of anxiety is to keep you safe. This is linked to the context of something that definitely couldn't cause physical harm. So therefore, it made sense to activate this feeling of fearlessness, because actually the thing that she was afraid of couldn't actually cause any real harm. Rats are timid creatures unless they're trapped in a corner. And therefore, if you see them on the street, they're going to run away from a human. They're not going to, try and fight. So it was helpful in this context. It doesn't make sense to have this feeling of fearlessness and then put yourself in deliberately dangerous situations. So I'm saying that not because you probably need to hear it, but just because it's common sense. and therefore useful as a frame of reference. No fear at all is reckless. So you want the healthy amount of fear, but in this context, to be fearless, to be confident was the right resource state, because it needs to be more intense than the original emotion. Otherwise, it doesn't collapse the anchor. If you are dealing with anxiety, and that could relate to an animal, could be a phobia, could be anxious about a future event, and you feel like working with me could help you in your specific situation, click the link in the show notes and you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call to explore what it would be like to work with me directly. For now, though, we're going to take a trip to the plains of Africa, get you feeling what it would feel like to be a lion, to feel fearless, and to give you that amazing sense of confidence, courage, and resilience. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow any feelings of worry, stress, anxiety to leave your body in that outward breath. As you breathe in, imagine breathing a feeling of relaxation, calmness, and confidence going in through your nose into your lungs. And what leaves your body are any limitations, any feelings of insecurities or anxieties. They're melting away and leaving your body in that outward breath. Every breath you take makes you feel more confident, more calm. And every outward breath releases any feelings of stress, anxieties, worries, or limitations. So as you breathe in and breathe out, you feel more confident, more relaxed, more at ease. As your body relaxes, I want your imagination to awaken. And I want you to imagine seeing a version of you at your most confident, fearless, a time when you are outspoken, unfazed. It doesn't matter what was happening around you. You, in this moment, were fearless. I want you to imagine stepping into that version of you so you feel that feeling of fearlessness. Notice how you're breathing. Notice how relaxed you feel, how calm. Maybe you feel a sense of being protective. Maybe you feel that because of your focus, you are unfazed. And then I want you to imagine being perhaps in the savannah, the plains of maybe East Africa. And I want you to imagine seeing a pride of lions in their natural habitat. But of all the lions, I want you to imagine seeing the most fearless and confident lioness in the pride. Everyone knows that it's the lioness that does the hunting. It's the lioness that really protects the cubs And I want you to see the most confident, fearless lioness of them all. I want you to see how that lioness walks, how they breathe. I want you to imagine there's other animals around them. And they might make noises, move. And I want you to see how unfazed that lioness is. And I want you to imagine shifting your perspective so you feel what it would feel like to be that unfazed. To feel that your resources exceed anything around you. If you want to walk somewhere, you walk somewhere. If you want to laze around and rest, you can do that. There is no inner dialogue of can't, unable to. The lioness can walk at night or in the daytime. There is no place in the environment that this lioness can't walk or go. And I want you to feel that resourceful feeling within you. And then I want you to imagine, for some reason, on the savannah, just imagine there's rodents. Rodents of all kind. Mice, rats. But you're in the body of the alpha lioness. No weakness. I want you to imagine there is the scurrying, the sound of rats or movements, but you are unfazed. If you were to see the scurrying or the darting movement, you couldn't care less. Imagine seeing these things and still breathing in that same calm, composed way. You are fearless, you are unfazed. And even if there was 3 or 4 or 5, all you would have to do is to walk towards them and they would scatter and scurry away. You are the threat, not them. And as you tap into that resourceful feeling, let me know by nodding your head. And then imagine that you're no longer on the savannah. You are in the streets in your neighborhood, still feeling like that lioness. Not walking the streets, prowling the streets. The way you look, turn your head, the pace. You are to be feared, not fearful. You are calm, you are composed. There is no place that you can't go to, any block, any street, day or night. You can walk at your pace. And I want you to see some of the things that would give you an idea that there are rats around, maybe traps. Doesn't faze you. You don't avoid certain neighborhoods, certain roads. There is any place you want to go to is exactly where you will go. You don't need a taxi and Uber to keep you safe. You don't need a cycle to get through a neighborhood quickly. You will walk at your pace on the side of the street that you choose, and anything around you should be intimidated of you, not the other way around. Feel that wonderful feeling of calm, confidence. And as you feel that way, I want you to imagine that you keep that feeling, but you're no longer in the body of a lion, you're in the body of you, but still feeling that same way. You are calm, you are confident, you are resourceful, you are fearless. You're standing tall if you choose to stand still. You're walking confidently if you choose to walk. You're breathing slow and steady. And you could see a live rat or a dead rat. It wouldn't faze you at all. Feel a calm and an unwavering sense of confidence radiating from within you, as if nothing can shake your composure. Embrace the idea that you are the one in control. You're not likely to see any rats, but if you did, they're going to be afraid of you, not the other way around. Imagine yourself walking purposefully. You need to get to a location, maybe a station, maybe a building. Nothing is going to deter you from walking the route that you want to walk. And imagine seeing a rat and imagining them as tiny and insignificant in the same way that a lioness would look at a bird or a tiny animal. You can see them, you can notice them, you're just not fazed by them. And if you were to see a rat, it just reminds you that they have no power over you anymore. You are the dominant presence in your neighborhood. You are the lioness, the protector, the confident, fearless one. These streets are yours to explore without restraint. If there's a block that's known for rats, maybe that's exactly where you choose to walk, hoping to see one to prove to yourself and them that you don't fear them anymore. Embrace the feeling of empowerment and liberation that comes with your newfound fearlessness. You are resilient and unshakable. It doesn't matter if you see them dead or alive or not at all. It doesn't matter if you see traps or signs that they are there. You couldn't care less. It's as insignificant as a fly would be to an elephant, or a small bird would be to a lioness. They are insignificant to you. And then if you did see a rat or a rodent, they would scurry away in fear, sensing your unyielding confidence and strength. Each and every time you walk down a street that previously was off limits will now give you a sense of pride and self-assuredness. Each and every victory emboldens you, gives you more evidence that you will not be intimidated. You will not be the one to walk away. You are the confident one. Each and every time you do it is victory. And maybe it will take 2 or 3 victories, or maybe more, or maybe less, until you develop a new belief. A belief that you used to be afraid of rats, but not anymore. And this will be a turning point in your life in so many other ways. Because once you have evidence that there used to be something you were afraid of and no longer are, you realize that all of the limitations in your life based on fear and anxiety aren't real. You'll start to think of fear as the acronym false evidence appearing real. And sometimes anxiety is a bit like shadows, and action is a bit like light. And when you move towards the very thing you've been moving away from, you realize that fear was just a mirage all the time. Because shadows can't exist in the presence of light. And when you take action doing the very thing you thought you couldn't do, you realize that none of these fears were real anyway. Just false evidence appearing real. And it was that false evidence that kept you in that loop, keeping you trapped and restricted, doing complicated ways of avoiding certain areas. But none of it was real. And sometimes you have to act like the lion to realize there was nothing to be afraid of at all. Imagine seeing 2, 3, 4 rats on a street corner and feeling a sense of absolute fearlessness. Imagine walking to them, seeing them scurry away, knowing you are the fearless one. Breathe in and breathe out and find yourself back on the savannah in the body of that lioness, feeling that these resources are deep within you. The lion can't change and suddenly be a cockroach. The lion is always the lion. And those qualities you have in so many areas of your life are who you really are. But sometimes the lion can act like a cockroach just for a small part of their life until they remember who they really are. And when they remember, why would they ever go back to being afraid when they realize they're not the afraid one? They're the one to instill fear in others. Breathe in and breathe out and feel like you're returning to the present, taking this feeling of fearlessness with you. Willing to take an idea and turn it into reality by doing things you couldn't think you would do before, but by doing them, giving you evidence that you're more confident and fearless than you ever thought. Looking forward to creating new references, new ideas about what's possible for you. Looking forward to walking down certain streets and looking forward to darker nights, darker evenings, to prove to yourself you are confident, calm, and fearless. And as you accept that to be true, let me know by nodding your head. Then return to the present as you breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, feel like you're returning fully to the present in this moment as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.